Welcome to a Crop and Create delivered video tutorial from Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine. This is designer Lynn Ghahary, and today we are going to create a layout from start to finish using the Crop and Create delivered summer kit. Here's a look at the sketch we will be using from Becky Fleck. Let's get started. I'm going to start my layout by creating a border using this navy polka dot patterned paper from Dear Lizzie. These are paper strips that have all been cut to about 1 inch in width. You'll see that I'm just placing them around the perimeter of my white cardstock. The white cardstock actually will not show at all on the layout, but instead of using an entire sheet of the navy polka dot paper as my layout base, I'm saving some patterned paper by layering these border strips along the outside of my white cardstock. You'll see that 2 of the strips have actually been cut with mitered edges. This is just a really fun detail to add when you're creating a border. If you didn't want the mitered edges, as I have done here, you simply could take your navy polka dot paper and cut a 10-inch square from the paper and adhere that to your white cardstock. Now I'm adhering a piece of this turquoise chevron paper from my mind's eye to the center of my layout. Again, this was just a way for me to save on some of the patterned paper by layering it on a cardstock base. I also have some colorful striped paper strips. This was cut from one of the Pebbles patterned papers, and I'll be layering those along the edges of my turquoise chevron paper. You can see that there was a little bit of the white cardstock showing because the cutting of the turquoise paper wasn't precise, but that's okay because these multicolored stripe paper strips will cover it. And instead of cutting these before I adhere them, I'm actually cutting them on my paper. Again, sometimes I find that when I'm using a paper trimmer, even though I may be measuring things out, it doesn't always cut exact. So in order to make sure that they are the perfect length, I am cutting them on my paper, and I only lightly adhere them, so it was easy with my X-Acto knife to just take off the part that I didn't need. You can see that I've also cut a mitered edge on this multicolored paper strip here, and I realized that it was just easier to cut the mitered edge once it was already adhered down. Initially, I had done it on my craft mat, and now I'm just going to adhere them down and then cut the mitered edge following the edge that has already been cut in my navy polka dot paper. If we take a quick look at the sketch, you can see that the left-hand side of the page has these circle embellishments cut out of paper. So I created a similar look using my electronic die cut machine. If you don't have an electronic die cut machine, you could use various sizes of paper punches. Of course, not all of the circles will be able to be punched with a paper punch, since some of them are in the center of your page. But you simply could punch a circle and then trace it on your paper and cut it out using an X-Acto knife. You could also create a similar look using a manual die cut machine and dies such as spellbinders. I am going to be filling those circles with various patterned papers, and I wanted to create a fun look on this green patterned paper. I'm using that Pebbles You Are Awesome paper as an inspiration. And I'm simply going to take the various phrases that are included in the summer kit stamp set, and I'm going to stamp them on this green paper. This is from Fancy Pants. And I'm going to use Lucky Limeade Stampin' Up! Ink for a tone-on-tone look. And I'm just going to randomly stamp several of the phrases so that it has the same look as that word art in that Pebbles patterned paper. Again, I'm using the Lucky Limeade stamping ink from Stampin' Up. If you don't have an ink that is similar in color to this green Fancy Pants paper, you could use Versamark ink, which also gives you that tone-on-tone look. And there's really no rhyme or reason to how I am stamping this. I'm just stamping some of them. You can see I'm using scratch paper so that I can stamp some of the phrases off the edge of my circle, and I'm just filling in the spots with the various phrases as I go along. Now I'm going to begin filling in my circles with my various pattern papers. Earlier you saw that I was using a pencil and I just lightly traced the circles so that I knew where to place my patterned papers. And I want a very colorful look to this layout to mimic the colors in the striped border that I have. So you'll see that I'm using some of the red Studio Calico paper, the yellow heart Dear Lizzie paper, as well as the orange paper, which is actually the B-side of one of the patterned papers from Pebbles. And you can see that I'm just placing the die cut over my patterned paper circles to get a better idea of what everything is looking like. I do end up filling in the rest of those circles with other pieces of patterned paper. I've placed dimensional adhesive on the back side of my die cut. I thought it would be really fun to have this portion of my layout design popped up from the page. I've also added some pen stitching around only a few of the circles using a black journaling pen. I'm going to be using this picture of my son Brandon. I took this picture during one of our summer vacations, and again, I'm going to be popping it up using dimensional adhesive. I really like to use dimensional adhesive on my layouts, not just with my embellishments, but it's also fun to pop up photos and other portions of your design. I think it really lends to the sophistication of the layout and adds some nice shadows and depth. I've gone ahead and printed my journaling in a circle shape and then punched that out using one of my circle punches, and I'm going to layer that here along with one of the L Studio circle die cuts. And again, I'm adding more dimensional adhesive to my layout. Now that I have my journaling adhered, I want to add a fun anchor die cut to my page as an embellishment. Anchors are very trendy for summer this year, so we wanted to be sure to include an anchor image in the die cut sheet that comes along with the kit. In order to give my anchor die cut more substance, I've cut it several times out of craft cardstock. And I'm using the Xyron Creative Station to add adhesive to the back. This is a really handy tool for adhering die cuts. I've already layered 3 anchors together, and I'm just adding my 4th to the stack. This way it creates a more dimensional die cut. You could use chipboard if you have it on hand, but since I didn't, I just adhered several pieces of cardstock together. And now that I've determined where I want my die cut to lay on my layout, I'm just going to adhere it with some dimensional adhesive. I'm also going to be using some of the yellow paper cord from Meyer Road and tie it around my anchor to mimic the look of a rope that you would see. It has a really nautical, fun feel to it. And I'm just loosely wrapping this paper cord around the stem of my anchor. The nice thing about this paper cord is that it is thicker than baker's twine, so it definitely has a lot more substance on your layout. You can see I'm just kind of fussing with it a little bit, trying to get it to lay the way that I want it. And once I do, I'm going to just use a glue pen to glue the various pieces in place. Now I want to just create some more embellishments for my layout. So I'm going to take these printed banners from Elle Studio and I'm going to cut one of the sayings that says happiness found. And I'm actually going to create a tag using the star pin from Maya Road. You can see that I'm using my bone folder just to create a score line on the edge of this banner. And I apologize, I take it out of camera as I'm really trying to just get a nice straight and firm fold. And then I'm just going to place it around the pin portion of my star pin, and I'll just use a small stapler to hold it in place. I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm just going to cut a little banner end in one side. Moving along to my title, I've cut a strip of this graph patterned paper, and again, I'm just cutting a banner shape in one end to mimic the look of the banner that I created with the Elle Studio tag. I've cut the word fun from that green Fancy Pants patterned paper. This is another die cut file that is included in the kit that you can use with your electronic die cut machine. I'm going to spell out the word summer with these red letter stickers from Simple Stories. I'm going to start from the end of the word summer and move forward. As I work, you'll see that I take the letter U and I intertwine it with the F of the word fun. This is a great way to make sure that when you're using different colors or letters or materials in your title, by intertwining them or somehow making them touch or overlap, you're ensuring that there's continuity between the two. I also liked it because I felt that it really mimicked the look of the rope that I have tied around our anchor die cut. And I apologize, my head gets in the way here a little bit as I'm trying to manipulate the sticker a little bit with my tweezers. Again, if you're going to do something like this, just be very gentle. You don't want to rip your sticker. And now I'm just going to use a glue pen to glue down the rest of my title. And I'll finish things up by adding the letter S rather. And here's a look at the finished title. And now I'm going to add this to the yellow patterned paper circle. And I'll use some dimensional adhesive to hold it in place. I want to add a few more pops of color, so I'm going to use these great enamel dots by My Mind's Eye. I know that I want to add some blue right here by my title to really pull things together. And then I'll go ahead and I'll add various colors in different sizes to a few other spots on my layout. When I'm placing them, I am placing the enamel dots in a visual triangle, again to help move the eye around my layout. And here's a look at the completed layout and a few detail images. For more information about Crop and Create Delivered, please visit www.scrapbookandcards.com or www.scrapbookandcardstodaymag.typepad.com.